All right, everyone. Welcome to our webinar at UNIDO with the theme of optimizing job applications, an online tutorial with UNIDO recruiters. My name is Gustavo Araújo. I'm the Chief of Talent Management at UNIDO, and I have great contributors to the organization here today. If you just joined us, please enter your name and your country of nationality in the meeting chat so we can have an idea of who we're talking to today. Again, if you just joined us, enter your name and country of nationality. So thanks already to Mandana from Austria, Adele from Iran, Ricardo from Italy, Azia, Patrine from Barbados, and a lot of folks are beginning to kind of chime in. This is the same chat box that you can use to ask questions towards the end of the presentation. Okay, over 1,000 people register for this webinar. So you may be one of them today joining us live, or you may be watching the recording at this point. We do understand that you have plenty of options when it comes to your job applications. So we very much appreciate your interest in the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. We are going to get started very, very soon. I kindly ask my colleague who is managing the slides to move it forward so that we can take a look at the next one. Very good. I am going to let my colleagues introduce themselves briefly so we can get started. Go ahead, Draga.
Thank you, Gustavo, and thanks for everyone who joined our presentation today. My name is Draga Paskova. Currently, I'm the head of talent planning and acquisition at UNIDO. Overall, I have more than 30 years of experience in strategic HR management, talent acquisition, and organizational development. Our team currently consists of 14 members. We're overseeing the recruitment and selection process for an international organization with more than 2,200 employees. Before joining UNIDO, I have 19 years of experience as HR manager in the private sector in Bulgaria, leading the HR function in companies across the automotive, insurance, retail, and manufacturing sectors. I'm very proud with the achievements of our team last year. The talent planning and acquisition reduced the time to hire by 80%, processed over 1,000 recruitments, and it was consisting an increase of 160% versus any previous years for fixed-term recruitment, and thus we were awarded with a special team award from the Managing Director of Corporate Services in UNIDO. I'll give the floor to Hina, who will briefly present herself as well. Hina, please.
Thank you, Draga. Hello, everyone. I'm Hina Javed, Associate HR Officer in Talent Planning and Acquisition Team at UNIDO. I have over 15 years of experience working in national and international context and emergency settings. I have worked in UN and different development organizations, including WHO, UNDP, the Palladium Group, TAI. And my latest assignment with WHO, I was part of a global sourcing and recruitment team. And in UNIDO, my focus is on talent acquisition, recruitment, and outreach initiatives. And in my previous organizations, I have led different HR initiatives to improve organization culture, positive working environment, diversity and inclusion. And based on my outstanding performance at UNDP country office, I was awarded a certificate of special recognition. So over to Aurelia for the introduction.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Aurelia Patrizia Calabro. I am coming from Italy, and I am currently the director of the Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Women Division. I am a UNIDO girl, I would say, because I have over 36 years of experience and started my career as a junior professional officer in UNIDO in 1989. And immediately I was posted to Ethiopia for 2 years almost before I was evacuated and came back to headquarters and recruited by UNIDO as P2. and then I did my full career. I am in the organization in the field of agro industries and the sectoral support department at the time, and particularly I became an industrial economist and agro value chain expert, particularly in non-food related field, and I have been 2 times in field office, and my last position was as regional director of the regional office hub in Addis Abeba for 6 years. And before that, I was a chief of two division in agro, 4 years as a chief of the women entrepreneurship and human security division, and furthermore of the agro technology division. So I am looking forward to have to provide a short mentoring on how you could have opportunities to join this wonderful organization.
Thank you
Over
very
to
much,
you,
Aurelia.
Gustavo. Yes.
Thank you. And Draga, Hin, and Aurelia, they actually a great representation of the fantastic people we have at UNIDO, whether they started as a JPO and they made their careers at UNIDO, whether they've come to the organization, let's say in the last decade, like Draga, or someone who just joined us from another UN organization or joined us from the private sector, like Draga did some years ago. If we go to the next slide, we do have a brief agenda to run by you. What we're going to do today is our recruiters will walk you through multiple steps for you to strategize your job application. What does that mean? You will find out very, very soon. The goal is to ensure that you understand you shouldn't just apply to any job for the sake of applying. This thing of throw it against the wall and see if it sticks does not really work, particularly in the UN system, because there's a lot of competition and because there's a lot of effort on the side of the recruiters to ensure that we select the most and best fit for the positions to be assessed. Number two, we're going to walk you through exercises on deciphering the job description so you can put your best foot forward, particularly in terms of describing how your past experiences align you to be a good fit for the role, and or how you can highlight how your transferable skills would make you a good fit for the position you're applying for. Last but not least, we're going to go over a few tips on creating a impactful cover letter. And towards the end, we are going to be taking questions from you using the same chat feature that you did to put your name and your nationality. So before we go ahead, we do have also an important message in the next slide. And this is a disclaimer. The information and guidance provided in this presentation are intended solely for informational purposes and do not constitute a guarantee of any specific outcome in the recruitment processes of UNIDO or any other similar entity. This includes, but is not limited to, the likelihood of being longlisted or shortlisted for positions or being invited for assessments or interviews. The presentation today outlines best practices observed in both private and public sectors, and its contents must be tailored to suit varying contexts. In other words, this is not a checklist. By following this presentation does not mean that you can just follow instructions and assume that you should be longlisted, shortlisted, interviewed, or assessed. This is part of our efforts at UNIDO to ensure that we reach to more women, more nationals of less represented member states, niche professionals, and everyone who may or may not have considered UNIDO as an employer of choice. So now we can go to the next slide and we're going to get the presentation started. I'll move it on to Hina.
Thank you, Gustavo. And let's start with the first part of our presentation, which is strategizing your job application. And job application planning is a most important step. While being a candidate, we are looking for multiple positions, and by mistake, many applicants they apply for multiple positions without checking what expertise, what area of expertise are required for the position. But they used to apply for multiple positions. So at this step, we would like to highlight that being a candidate, we should focus on the job application for the positions which are most likely to be competitive for you, for us being a candidate. And then we elaborate like what experience and expertise we have for this position, and we align those expertise and position in our job application while applying for any position in any organization and in the UNIDO. So the first step is to do a research. While being a candidate, if we are applying for any position, the first step is to research the organization for which we are applying and what are the priorities of that organization. Let's say, for example, in case of UNIDO, you can see on your screen, the priorities for UNIDOs are clean energy and climate action, ending hunger, sustainable supply chains. And being a candidate, you can also review the annual reports or other information available on the organization website to see what kind of projects we have, what kind of project the organization is working on, and what experience, expertise are required from the organization. So this, it would help you to plan your job application and identify the application the jobs which are suitable for you, which compares with your experience and expertise. Over to you, Draga.
Thank you, Hina. So here we have prepared a bunch of key questions that you might consider in order for you to decide what is read in the job description. Am I a good match? Shall I apply for that position? Please have in mind that the advices that we will give you will be valid to a very large extent, not only for UNIDO, but overall the UN system, because we follow more or less the same practices when processing recruitment and selection processes. So the first thing that might help you would be to have a look at what potential peers of yours, in case you're the successful candidate, would have as profiles in LinkedIn. Now we're lucky that in this platform you can do a lot of research and get a lot of information on what is the current profiles of people who are working in a particular department or unit or division, however it is called in the different entities. As well, what are the profiles they have, what are the experiences that they have accumulated before joining the organization. So this will give you a good understanding what the organization is looking for and what the organization is hiring for. This will give you as well as an advice what kind of strategies can you use in order to make a difference in comparison to the people who are already on the organization. What makes you a different candidate? What would make you a really strong candidate? And what are the common qualifications and experiences of the professionals currently encumbering such positions? This as well will be of help of you to understand how the job you would be applying for aligns with your skills, interests, and career goals. We're going to dive in deeper in the future slides in the presentation, but this would be the frame you need to start with in order to take a decision. Would you be interested to apply, and would you be a good match for that position too? What would be the key responsibility and task carried out by current individuals in this role? I'm always talking to colleagues who are looking for advice. Shall I apply for a position or not? And my answer always is, please do not forget that if you are selected for a position, you can be doing this job for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So if I personally believe that if someone is applying only in order to get on the higher grade without taking into account what the job content is about, this might be a very well paved way for dissatisfaction in the future. So have in mind what the job is about, and are you interested at being there for the near or longer future? Do I meet the minimum requirements? And is that enough? We're going to do an exercise in the second part of the presentation, because the minimum requirements in the UN system are something which is very important, because in the private sector, they're indicative, while for UN organizations, including UNIDO, they're really required. And we will see in the presentation, Helena will show us later how you can differentiate between required and ones which are considered like an advantage. What are the relevant skills? and what is the experience required, and do I have it in order to be a successful candidate for this position. In case the answer would be no, you should not get discouraged, because at least this will give you an indication on what additionally you should acquire, even if you're not qualified now, but you have, for example, UNIDO as your targeted future workplace. You would be able to identify where you should focus, what kind of courses or languages or anything else would be needed for you to be successful in the future. Even today, the answer would be a no. Hina will move you forward with the deciphering of job description. So Hina, over to you.
Thank you, Jamila. Since once after this strategizing the job application process, the next step is deciphering the job description, where being a candidate, one should need to fully understand the job description going beyond the minimum requirements. And based on this, the candidate can leverage this information throughout the application process to demonstrate fit. It's not just only about the minimum requirement, but it's about what skills, expertise are required, and what are the job responsibilities mentioned in the job description. If you can see on your screen a pyramid upside down, but on the bottom you can see the minimum organizational requirements, mean minimum requirements in terms of qualification, experience. But what does that mean? Meeting the minimum requirements in terms of year of experience, qualification, or language is not sufficient if you want to be shortlisted for any positions, because you can also see the core values and competencies that are highlighted in the job description, and you need to check if you have, being a candidate, those core competencies and experience or skills you have for this position, and then you can, based on that, you can develop your job application highlighting those skills and competencies in your job application. And then comes the main responsibilities. So it's not only about meeting the minimum requirements, but being a candidate, you should also check the core values and competencies that are highlighted in the job description and its relevance to your experience, and of course the main responsibilities as well. And when it comes to the minimum requirements, mainly the minimum requirements are on education, experience, and languages, and including like educational background, minimum experience in specific area, and some languages are even required as certification. So maybe if you have the relevant education, experience, and language, it doesn't mean, again, I'm explaining it again, that it doesn't mean that you are best qualified candidate for this position. But if you have language requirements and you have additional language expertise and proficiencies, so it's good you highlight that in your profile. So over to Draga on explaining further on eligibility and criteria.
Thank you, Hina. So beyond deciding, am I interested in this job, it would always be good for you to verify, would I be eligible for this position? So here I'm showing you the way how we as recruiters will approach the applications we receive. There are four main elements that we're going to have into account, and this would be the years of experience, the relevance of the experience you have. We will show you a bit later samples, but for example, it could be 3 years of experience in energy efficiency. If you have 2 years and a half, there is a very high chance that will not consider you. If the experience would be in a field like, for example, agribusiness, where Aurelia is coming from, and you are applying for a position in environment, there is a high probability that we will not have you in mind because you have the experience, but it is not as relevant as it would be of other candidates. As well, education is something which is important for the UN system, and it would have few dimensions which we're having in mind. The educational level itself, meaning that in the different vacancy announcements, you will see that we are looking for secondary education, sometimes bachelor degree, and for professional positions, it would be a master's degree. So If it refers to a certain grade of study, you should already have it and have it graduated. As well, what is important is the field of study and its relevance to what the minimum requirements have set, because they're always in a field which would be beneficial and relevant for the job that the person will have to perform. Another element which is specific for the UN system, it is about the accreditation of institutions. My colleagues will place in the chat the link where you can verify if the university you have graduated is among the ones which are accredited by UNESCO. Of course, being part of the UN system, for us it is important that we're accepting applications from accredited institutions. Last and definitely not least, I would mention the languages. Maybe you know the UN system is having a number of official languages, and the more of them you have, the better it will be for your profile. Lately, with this internalization of the labor market, there are more and more candidates who are having 3, 4, even more than the minimum usually we would expect for the English language. And I know that some candidates are getting a bit surprised why we're stressing this so much, but I can assure you, and even if you think it by yourself, if we have two candidates who are having exactly the same profiles, the same number of experience, similar education, and one of them is having only English, while another one would be fluent as well in French and let's say Spanish, you can guess who will be the preferred candidate. Why? Because very big part of our portfolio is based in Africa and Latin America. And for Africa, French is definitely an advantage. And for our portfolio in Latin America, Spanish is helping a lot. So I would highly recommend you to invest, especially for the ones who are eager to learn and keep their brain to, being fit, to consider studying languages on one hand, because it increases your chances not only for UNIDO, not only for UN, but overall worldwide. I really think that it makes a difference. And as well, it is very good for the brain, even for your own mental health being. It is a very good investment, I believe, to be done. We will share as well our platform where you can find more information for the projects UNIDO is managing. There is a very extensive information, and especially if you're applying for project funded positions, I think it is a very good investment to make, to consider what is the project about, what should I know, and how this can make my application stronger, meaning that you can fine tune your cover letter. I will talk about it in the end of our conversation, but it will give you a very good ground to understand what you'll be expected to perform. Still, we were talking about minimum requirements. Please do not forget that they're the necessary minimum, but they're not a sufficient condition for being considered. Therefore, considering transferable skills and experience when self-assessing can help you in order to make a strong application. Hina will now guide you through the way you can do an exercise for you to consider your relevance for the position. Hina, please.
Thank you, Draga. In this exercise, we considered a position for a project administrator, international consultant. And the questions, in your opinion, what type of educational background is needed for this position? How many years of experience? And what type of relevant experience do you think is needed for this job? You can enter your responses in the chat box. So in your opinion, for the project administrator, international consultant, what would be the education requirement? What would be the experience in terms of year is needed for this position and the relevant experience? So you can enter your responses in the chat.
Can you repeat the question again, Hina? So what Hina is asking is for you to take a look at the Project Administrator International Consultancies and go over the questions and give us your insight on what you think it is. Go ahead, Hina. They're already adding.
Yes. I already see some responses. It says postgraduate level educational experience, at least master's, and 5 year of experience in international organizations, 5+ year of experience, 15 years of experience, BA or master's, project. Uh, it's moving so fast. Project management, master's degree, master's 5 to 7 year of experience, bachelor's. Okay, so now we will go through what exactly is required for this position and what was available in the TORs. So maybe on your screen you can see the functional responsibilities, which the consultant will undertake under the supervision of staff member, and you can see the highlighted uh, points. For example, select, organize, and summarize background information, contribute to the design and development, identify and explore opportunities, analyze and interpret, draft, monitor, draft project revision. So this is something you can see from the TORs, and these are the duties available in the TORs for this project administrator consultant. But if you see in the next slide, in this slide, you can see the next slide, Draga. Yes, thank you. So now you can see, since they have mentioned in the first slide in the TORs that candidate is expected to work on selecting, organizing, and summarizing something. But if you further look into the TORs, you will be able to see that select, organize, and summarize background information to describe the overall context and background relevant to the project, or in case of contribute to the design and development of project concepts and proposals. And you can see innovative financing mechanisms are mentioned in the TORs, project background history and documents, or project documents such as project background and justification. So, and another point, you can see aspects of project execution and draft project revisions, including adjusting individual project budgets. So you can see in this slide that whatever is available in the TORs, you being a candidate need to sort out and need to check what exactly is required for this position, so that it will help you understand the job, the TORs, and prepare your job application. And when it comes to minimum requirements in terms of education, experience, and languages, you can see it's highlighted here. Advanced university level degree, master's or equivalent in economics, environmental management, engineering, a field of direct relevance. So this is required. So as Draga, she was mentioning that if you have relevant qualification, then there is a better chance that you will be considered for this position. And in terms of experience, it says minimum 3 of experience, but you can see in the highlighted portion area that the minimum 3 of experience, but in Montreal Protocol and its Kigali amendments. So if being a candidate, you have 3 years of experience and you have experience in Montreal Protocol and its Kigali amendment, there is a chance that you will be considered for this position. Same is the case with experience evaluating needs, conditions, and problems in developing countries. But it also highlights ozone depleting substances. So there is requirement, if you have this experience in ozone depleting substances, it means you have a better chance to be considered by a hiring manager to be considered for this position. And in terms of languages, if you can see, fluency in written and spoken English is required, but you can also see that Spanish language is also required. So while preparing your job application, kindly review the TORs, the job description, and see what exactly is required for the position. And if you have the relevant skills and competencies and education, please highlight that in your job application process. So over to Draga. You are mute, Draga.
Yeah, so what I would like to mention is that you should make a difference between the requirements which are a must and the ones which are desirable. When you're creating your application, you will see that there are questions which you need to address before submitting your application. For example, if we go back to the profile we were discussing here, for example, it can be, do you have advanced university degree in economics, environmental management, or engineering? If the answer would be a no, it means that your chances for getting these positions are lower. It does not mean that you should not apply in case you're interested for this position. But in general, as Gustavo mentioned, as he narrated as well, if you're applying everywhere just for the purpose of getting a job, you're investing a lot of time, you're creating hopes in yourself, and if you're not meeting the minimum requirements, your chances are not that good. But for example, if you see in the bottom of the experience required, substantive experience in all phases of project cycle is desired, it means that this can give you an advantage, but it will not filter you out. Lately, what we notice is that we're having candidates who, for example, do not have master's degree, but in order to move forward, they would answer such a question, yes, I have a master's degree. What will happen then when the hiring manager and the recruiters are reviewing the applications? This mismatch will transpire, meaning that your chances will not get higher because you're being seen. These are really the minimum requirements, which are very important for us and our member state. So please having this in mind when you're creating your application. Using action verbs will be a good way for you to explain what you have been doing. We're going to show you more, and this can help you to make a strong statement on how your past experience is relevant to what the job is about. Please fully assess what is expected by the incumbent of the job in terms of day-to-day activities. You can use the exercise which Hina showed you, with showing, highlighting for yourself what are the key responsibilities which we have and how do I match against them. This will help you to map your past experiences and align them with the tasks and responsibilities that the person selected will be expected to deliver. So now we will pass over to Aurelia, who will tell us a bit more from gender perspective and give us a few more advices, which we believe that would help you to answer yourself very important questions when preparing your application. Aurelia, over to you.
Thank you. I am the bad one. I am the devil, when he's going to meet you, during your interview. But as Draga was just telling you, it is very important to read the job description. It is you have to consider the job description like really a good guideline where all the replies to your questions are there. And also, very important things that Draga also underlined, you should not just apply because you want to get into the organization. You have also, apply where your passion lies, and also ask yourself, why do I apply? What is your motivation? And also, what is your engagement? Now, we have done a sort of research on how, the patterns between men and women are followed when applying to a job. There is a famous articles by Tara Sofia Moore that says why women don't apply for jobs unless they are 100% qualified. And actually, we have this point on statistic highlights. It is very interesting that men apply for job when they meet only 60% of the qualification, while women applied only if they meet 100%. So this is one thing. So there is indeed a kind of confidence myth that we could look at, that it says that the common belief that women don't apply due to lack of confidence, and this is a challenge, but because the reasons really are much more complex. Then if we go more in the survey, we see that a survey of over 1,000 men And women revealed that the top reason for not applying was the belief that they wouldn't be hired without meeting all the qualification. But Draga just told you that you have really to read what is required, and maybe you can make it for some of the qualification that are a bit question mark. Then there is a problem on having this fear of failure, because women often avoid applying to prevent wasting time and energy on a likely rejection, you know. Then there is also there is a kind of what we call systemic issues, and this article also suggests that systemic and cultural factors contribute to women hesitancy, including societal expectation and workplace norms. We know, and this is cross-cutting all over the world. And then there is a kind we should encourage to go to change, and women should apply even if they don't meet all qualification, emphasizing on the importance of taking risk and challenging also the norms. And then we have a kind of we can look at the broader implication that is addressing this issue is definitely crucial for achieving gender equality in the workplace and ensuring diverse talent pools for employers. Of course, this is a short webinar, and there are a variety of beliefs, culture, and standards across our member states, but we would like to bring this topic up so you can use this information when considering application for any division. But I would like, please, next one, to go to three, I would say, question I would like to bring to you when you are meeting me in a potential recruitment. The first one that you have to ask yourself: how do I show that I have a directly relevant experience to the position? And from my point of view as hiring manager, I think that first of all you are coming prepared, and what you need to show me in my case is how can you trying to build or bring added value to my team. What is your vision? What is the trust? How fast and quick you can adapt to the new job? So this is something that you have to think over, because most likely this is one in the question that you are going to have is, I think, a very important that it makes you the alpha candidate to apply for this position, and my candidate for recruiting you in my team. The second question that I think it's very relevant for you: do I have past evidence that I could hit the ground running or have an easy learning curve? So again, you need to use to prepare yourself, and I think that is very important how you communicate this experience that you have. You see, and I think a very key tool that is very good to convince me is to prepare 2-3 examples on how you have been acting, and your experience is relevant to my work, to the work of my team. And also use proper communication. You have to communicate to me the relevant experience, and also convince me that even if you are not so in depth in a certain topic, how you can immediately adapt and also quick learn, and taking as always using the example. And the third question that is very also very relevant. How do I show that I have a potential transferable skills? This is already a magic word, transferable skills, that has been used by Draga in one of the slides. And so, what is this is what I need for applying for this job. Of course, everybody comes with some experiences. You have to think yourself like a construction worker that goes around with this belt with different tools, and so you need to apply and take one of these tool from your tool belt and tell me, I am not new to this job. I know these things very well, and of course, you have the so-called hard skills that is your education, your experience, whatsoever. But you have also soft skills that you have to highlight, which, in my opinion, and in my case, are very important for getting a job in my team. And these are, for example, you are able to be a very good team member, and also you have a level of empathy in towards your colleagues, and of course, through example, you will deem that you are coming up with some innovative approaches to reach a goal, and what are been your impact based on lesson learned, and also that you can show that it is going to be, you are an easygoing person, that you are able to work beyond the working time. I mean, adapting to the what you call it, the requirement of the job. So I think that these are some tips that could assist you when meeting an iron what an iron officer could expect from you. And these are the type of exercise and preparation that you need to do when you are applying a job at UNIDO. Over to you, Draga.
Thank you, Aurelia. Well,
Yeah.
before we would move to, I read that there was one of our viewers today sharing that it would be good to have a mock preparation of application. Before I will give you an exercise which can help you in this direction, I would like to mention that what I noticed lately with my 30 years of experience, I'm seeing how the labor market is evolving. Lately, many candidates are having the approach of talking about what they want, and somehow they forget what they can give. If you have carefully listened to what Aurelia was mentioning, she is a hiring manager, would like to hear what can you offer, what can you bring to the team, what can make you a strong candidate for this position. So when applying, and especially if you reach the state of being invited for a personal assessment, I think that it is a very important mindset shift you need to have in mind in order to have good chances to get the position. So with regard to making your profile and deciding what shall I include and what not, there is a very simple technique which we would like to show you. It is called the T technique profile, where what you should do would be, on one hand, to list, as Hina was showing you, what are the needs of the organization with regards to responsibilities, with regard to job content, and how can I match my professional experience versus what the position requires. Most of the positions you will see. Okay, another one important we will talk about will be age. So what you will mostly see on our job portal will be international and local consultancies, which are usually mentioned as individual service agreement. There is a very typical abbreviation. We call it ISA. So what you need to do versus what you will see in the job application would be how can I match my professional experience? Because the key selection factors that we're having in mind would be the experience, of course, it's relevant, the field in which it would be. Is there a managerial experience if the position is expecting this as well? What are the skills and competencies required in comparison to what the job description has already mentioned? If the past experiences are not fully aligned, what are the clear transferable skills you can take from your previous jobs, which would be useful for what the position would be requiring? For example, if in the past you were not drafting project documents, which would be a requirement, for, let's say, for a project administrator, but you have been drafting research reports, maybe this can be something that you can mention. Of course, the languages, the education are important. The letter of interest, I saw that there was a question on how can you make a strong cover letter. We'll show you this before we go to the Q&A session. So when you do this mapping exercise, you can do this with regard to the responsibilities, the competencies required, the educational requirements, the work experience, and the language. So on one hand, you can have a look and highlight for yourself what the vacancy announcement is looking for and what can I offer? What in my previous experience would be a good match for what the team will be working? I would highly recommend you to refrain for using some jargons or abbreviations which are very typical for your work, because I know that when you're writing your CV, you can use abbreviations which are relevant for the particular organization or company you're looking for, but it does not mean that anyone under the sun would understand this, meaning that when you're preparing your CV, please try to read it like a person who never worked in this place. Would it be readable? Would it be understandable from everyone? Now we will show you a sample of how there could be a great match, a good match, or an average match in comparison to what the organization would require for. For example, if there is a requirement in the vacancy announcement that someone would be able to lead technical cooperation projects, ensuring implementation and achieving project goals, a strong statement in the CV might look the way it is mentioned on the right side of your screen. I led a team of 20 professionals in the implementation of 10 million technical cooperation project aimed at improving industrial processes in 3 developing countries. We achieved a 30% increase in production efficiency and 25% reduction in waste. If you recall how I presented myself, it was not by coincidence that I mentioned that our team last year delivered more than 1,000 recruitment. We increased the time in which we hire with 80%. We received an award. This is what Hina did as well. So making clear statements which would make the person, the hiring manager who is reading your profile, understand what you actually did is really important. For example, when you're talking about project implementation, in many CVs, it would just mention implementing projects. For us, it is important. Are the projects only in one region? Are they in one country? Are they, let's say, on a continental level, or sometimes it could be global? And of course, this makes a difference. If the project would be for let's say, $200,000, or it would be a 10 million, the way it is in this particular sample, would make a difference. If you are managing a team of 2 or a team of 20, as well makes a difference. So making it as tangible as possible and full with particular details and KPIs will help the hiring manager to understand to which extent you would meet what he's looking for. The next sample is not that well matching. And the last one on building, let's say, partnerships of knowledge transfer, networking, and industrial cooperation. The way it is written is not that convincing as the first one was. For example, managed partnerships with educational institutions and community organizations to promote STEM educational initiatives, organized workshops and training sessions for 300 students, and so on. What I'm aiming at telling you is that the more particular information you include, the better feeling the hiring manager would have on what you really did. And this will make your profile stand out and make it stronger. So then, before we give you a few samples on how can you prepare a strong application, we would like to share with you that in applications for UNIDO, you can have the mindset of having your goal to show the alignment between what we're looking for and the job and experiences you have had in the past. In order to make a really, really strong statement, it would be important to show evidence by highlighting how your previous experiences are making you a strong candidate for this position. And it is important to really try to have a strategic thinking when approaching that. For example, when you're describing achievements, mention the positive results. Try to put as many KPIs, as many figures and numbers as you can, mentioning how you impacted the team, the unit, the department, or the whole organization will be very well perceived and will have a good understanding on what your profile is about. How did you positively contribute to your previous employers? What have you learned? What have you achieved? Of course, we understand that sometimes it may be difficult for many candidates to use terms such as I did, I accomplished, I achieved. It is culturally differentiating, and Aurelia already talked a bit about it. There are cultures in which being modest and not talking about my achievement is very welcomed, and otherwise people are perceived as arrogant. But when you're preparing your applications and when you're being assessed during personal assessment, during personal interview, you should be aware of these patterns that we all have embedded in our brains and try to get out of those and really highlight on what your achievements are, because this is what you're going to be assessed for. A good trick for addressing this would be to quantify your achievements. For example, if you're a trainer, how many trainings have you prepared? How many trainings you're delivering, let's say, on a monthly basis? How many topics are they covering? Is it only, trainings, for example, with regard to agribusiness, or you're providing trainings for the whole house? How many people are you training regularly? To which extent the topics that you have been delivering trainings for are relevant for UNIDO's mandate? And we'll show you a few samples in very soon, so you'll have a better feeling on what a strong application would look like. So I will give the floor to Hina to give you the first one for a project manager in sustainable development. Hina, please.
Thank you, Dragan. On your screen, you can see achievements for a project manager sustainable development highlighted. And if you can see, for the first point, it says led a team of 15 professionals, so showing that how big team the candidate was managing in his previous job. And also you can see led a team of 15 professionals in the implementation of $5 million sustainable development projects. It also showcased that how much budget the candidate was able to manage, and development project across 3 developing countries. So overall, if you can see, it highlights that the candidate was able to manage team of 15 professionals and how much budget he was able to manage across 3 developing countries. Achieved a 20% reduction in carbon emission and 15% increase in renewable energy usage within the first year. So by highlighting the percentage, previously I discussed, like if you mention that increase sale of 20% or manage a team of 10 or 15, it will have impact, and it will appeal the hiring manager to see how much achievements the candidate was the applicant has in the previous jobs. And also in this point, you can see coordinated with the local governments, NGOs, and private sector partners to ensure project alignment with national development goals. It also shows the level of coordination with multiple stakeholders. Monitored and evaluated project progress using the key performance indicator resulting in a 95% on-time delivery rates. So it also showcased the achievements as a 90% on-time delivery rate. So the candidate was able to deliver at a rate of 95%. So these are few points the candidate highlighted to showcase the impact and results what he has achieved in his previous jobs. So then there is for the industrial development officer position. So maybe Draga, you can also share uh, how the candidate tried to highlight the achievements in these points.
Thank you, Hina. So, developed and implemented industrial policies that led to a 10% increase in manufacturing output in the target region. It would be even better if you would put the place where you are working, because, again, as mentioned, for us, if you already know a particular region, a particular country, this will be of an advantage. Conducted comprehensive market analysis and feasibility studies, facilitated training programs for over 200 local entrepreneurs, enhancing their business skills and knowledge. If you're having some follow-up statistics, for example, of to which extent these trainings led to increase in their sales or in their profit, you can reflect this as well, because this will show to which extent you really managed to help your final recipients. Secure 2 million in funding from international donors will show that you're able to attract additional funding. So this is another example that might make your profile strong and outstanding. Aurelia will show how
Yes.
a good gender profile would look like. Aurelia, please.
Yes, here there are some example on what we consider a good gender equality specialist and the past experience required. For example, designed and implemented gender mainstreaming strategies in UNIDO projects, ensuring gender equality in all phases of the project development. This is a very important part. I would also quantify. You need to also quantify that how many times and what was the outcome. Then conducted the gender analysis and assessment for 10 major projects. Leading to the inclusion of gender specific indicators and targets and proper components within the projects, and quantify also that. Organize workshop and training section for over 300 staff members and partners on gender equality and women's empowerment, and also advocated for policy changes that promoted the women's participation in industrial sector, resulting in a 30% increase in female employment, or also, income generation, or transformative, gender transformative activities that would address the root of a specific problem in XYZ countries that hinders the empowerment of women in a certain sector. Over to you.
Thank you. The next sample that we had prepared would be technical advisor in energy efficiency. Again, you can see that there are particular elements which can make a strong statement on what the person had been doing so far. In this particular case, I advised on the implementation of energy efficiency measures in 50 industrial plants, resulting in a 25% reduction in energy consumption. This is something very tangible, which shows that the efforts which were made really made a contribution and make impact in the ground. Conducted energy audits and provided technical recommendations that saved companies an average of 500,000 annually. This is one of the best samples that you can think of, something that really brings value on the ground, because this is what we're looking for. Collaborated with government agencies to develop and enforce energy efficiency standards and regulations. Frequently in CVs, we would see stakeholders, but stakeholders, you know what means. We don't know, would it mean the recipients in the ground? Would it mean the local, let's say, municipality authorities? Would it mean the government? Would it mean donors? So it as more precise you are, the better understanding of your past experience the hiring manager would have. Hinam, please, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Draga. And in this last example, we took the position for environmental specialist. And as you can see on your screens, it is mentioned that led environmental impact assessment for 20 industrial projects. So again, highlighting the number of projects the candidate, the applicant was leading, and then developed and implemented environmental management plans that reduced waste generation by 40% and improve water quality. So again, the quantifiable results and impact by reducing 40%. So this is how the candidate tried to highlight the achievement. Collaborated with local communities and stakeholders to address environmental concerns and promote sustainable practice. Secured 1.5 million in grants for environmental conservation projects benefiting over 10,000 people. So again, highlighting the number of the candidate tried to highlight how much fund or grants he has managed in environmental conversation, and which results in benefiting over 10,000 people. So previously, Draga, she has mentioned that using the action verb can help us prepare a good job application. So here on your screen, you can see some action verbs you can use being a candidate while preparing your job application to highlight your achievements and the impact. For example, if the applicant has done something for improving something, the candidate can use the action verb like modified, standardized, converted, replaced, redesigned, etc. And if the candidate led a project, the action verb could be oversaw, executed, produced, coordinated, organized. And same goes with if the candidate has created something, the action verb can help him or her to showcase the achievements. Same is the case with managed a team. So the action verb could be recruited, hired, cultivated, shaped, guided, aligned, etc. And same is the case with research. If the candidate has done some research, the action verb could be calculated, surveyed, investigated, evaluated, etc. So we try to share with you some action verbs, but if you want to explore more action verb, you can Google and you can use those action verbs while preparing your job application. And the most important point to remember is while you are preparing your job application, you should be honest and realistic and ensure that your descriptions and achievements accurately reflect your experience, job title, and the organization you work for. And misalignment can quickly undermine your credibility. We had a situation where the candidate applied and mentioned that he led an ERP project. But when I get a chance to talk to the hiring manager, I came to know that the candidate was not leading that project. In fact, he was assisting that project. So if being a candidate, if you are applying for a position and you didn't lead any project, it's fine. Maybe you can use some words like assisted in the development or supported or collaborated. So it will help you prepare your job application in a way that you are providing the right information to the hiring manager. Over to you, Draga.
So the final part which we would like to mention about would be how can you align your profile with UNIDO's mandate. There was a question already for how can you make a strong cover letter. We're not going to get too much into the details on giving you templates because there are many you can find online. But our advice to you would be that maybe you can follow a structure like explaining why are you interested in contributing in UNIDO's mandate, explaining what in your past experience would align with this position, what are your careers and how would they align with UNIDO, and highlight what in your background is essential to showcase you fit, or if it is not a full fit, what are the transferable skills you can have. For closing, what I would advise you to do is to think what would be your unique point of sale. What is the think that you can really bring, which is different from what is already available in the team if you refer to how we started? What would make you really a strong candidate, a shining star that can help the team? What can you bring to the team? So understanding UNIDO's mission is really important. You can read a lot of materials online. Hina already shared with you the platform where you can see all our portfolio available. So tailor your cover letter in a way that shows you how your skills are aligning with these goals. Highlight the relevant experiences, showcase your commitment to global development, why this is important for you. Be concise and clear. Don't repeat things which are just copying and pasting from the templates, because I can assure you that a hiring manager or a recruiter can always recognize when someone copied something as when someone prepared something based on really their passions and their interest. Of course, being professional and proofreading would be important. And just to summarize from recruiter's point of view, Hina will give you a few more hints. Hina, please.
Thank you, Dragan. So while preparing your cover letter, the tips could be research the organization. Again, when you are preparing your cover letter, it's good if you understand the company's mission, vision, and align those requirements in your job application that shows that you are a good fit for the position. Tailor your resume and cover letter. Yes, when you are applying for any position in any organization, it's always good to customize your resume and cover letter to match the job description. Showcase achievements. It's always good to showcase your achievements and accomplishment rather than just listing the job duties. Use quantifiable matrices to demonstrate your impact, such as, again, I'm sharing like increase sales by 20% or manage the team of 10, 15, or 20 team members. Then comes highlight international experience if possible. So, of course, if you have international experience, you should highlight that. If you have language proficiency in multiple languages, you should also highlight that because they are often highly valued in global organizations. So, international experience and language proficiency, if you have, please highlight in your cover letter. Proofread carefully. Yes, of course, just to avoid any typos or grammatical errors, it's always good to proofread your cover letter before applying. Follow instructions. If you are applying for any position in any organization in UNIDO, it's always good to follow the instruction for the application. Sometimes missing documents or not following the instructions can lead to your application being overlooked. So these are some tips while you are preparing your cover letters. And then over to Draga and Gustavo.
Thank you, Hina. Before we go to the questions and answers, I would like to share with you that we have already planned our next webinar, which will be conducted in the 18th of June, and it will be focusing on one of our divisions, which is very important. It is one of the priorities set from our Director General. It is on driving industrial development with AI, innovation, and digitalization. There will be outstanding speakers at our end. I really believe that our team is great. So if you're interested, you can already register now. You can find the information in the slide. And you can follow Hina and myself in LinkedIn. We're posting application vacancy announcement once they arrive. So you can please follow UNIDO for more information on our webpage. And yeah, now we have a few more minutes left. Gustavo, in the meantime, shared the link for the next webinar. If you have questions, I see that Gustavo was addressing many of them while we were presenting, but very briefly, two of the things I would like to mention. There was a question with regard to age. Age is not one of the criteria we're screening our candidates against. Of course, the relations between age and years of experience is there. It is inevitable. What we're screening for is what we already mentioned. And if a position would require 10 years of experience, usually this is for managerial positions. Of course, if you have started working 2 years ago, it would not make you an eligible candidate. But for sure, there is no criteria based on age, so we would filter candidates out. The other
There's one
one
just one
was,
thing, Draga,
please.
yeah, we do not consider that, but for staff positions, there is an age limit,
Yeah.
correct? For which people have a limit to apply. However, other people who are above the age limit are able to apply for other types of positions, including
For the
consultancies.
consultancies, yeah. For our regular positions, there is a limitation, and I think it is mentioned in the vacancy announcement that you need to have 3 years before your retirement age at the moment of applying. But for consultancy opportunities, there are no limitations. So even if you're a retiree, this option is always open for us, for applicants. Another comment which I saw was that there is the feeling that somehow UN experience is always preferred in comparison to candidates, let's say for JAZ and so on. I would say that it is definitely not the case. What is important is that you would match the requirements the way they're set into the vacancy announcement. And I can say that I'm a very good example of a candidate who is coming from the private sector. I have never been working for any UN entities before I joined, but I'm in UNIDO now for quite a long time. So please don't frame yourself. If I refer back to what Aurelia was talking about, let's consider that we're having patterns in our brain which are preventing us from applying. Don't get into this trap. If you're interested in a job, just apply. Try your chances if you believe that you meet the requirements, if you believe that this is a good match for you, and only experience will show if you will be selected or not. So there were a few.
Before we wait, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, Draga, for more questions. One thing that's important to note as well is that a lot of the examples that we provided, they serve to be very clear cut and very specific of how individuals were able to show value, how they add value, and how they align themselves to the job description. Obviously, they must be truthful, they must be reasonable, and they must be aligned with the appropriate stage of professional careers. We cannot expect someone with just an internship or junior level experiences to actually be able to have the same amount of experience as someone who is applying for P3, P4, P5 level. So this you need to take into account as you are conducting or completing your applications. Okay, I'll pass it back to Draga. I apologize for cutting you off, Draga.
No, it's fine. The only thing I wanted to mention, in case you have not seen it in the chat, Gustavo addressed it, but still there was a repetitive question. Can we receive the presentation? Can we get the presentation? This will be shared with everyone who registered. Gustavo mentioned it in the beginning. So we'll have access to the recording of what we have been sharing with you today. Then with regard to change from G to P, um, I know that in the secretariat, in the past at least, there were tests you need to go through. We do not have this in UNIDO. So in case you would meet the requirements, you can apply, and we are not going to disqualify people based on the fact that they're applying for P positions while they're G. In case you meet the requirements, this would be the mantra. If you have master's degree in the field which was mentioned, if you have the numbers of experience which were mentioned, if you speak the languages which are required, you're going to be shared with the hiring managers. There was a few times question on rosters as well. Maybe Hina can explain how rosters work.
Yes, we have the rosters for application, the candidate uh, who are suitable for the position and approved to be placed in the roster. We have developed a roster, and for any position, if we have a request to pick the candidate from the roster, we pick the candidate and we offer the position to the rostered candidates. So we have this roster in place, and most of the time, if we have a request from hiring office, hiring manager, we consider the roster candidate. And for the candidate, we also provide them feedback that they are rostered for 2 years time.
Thank you, Hina. There is a question on UN80. Being a specialized agency, we're not directly impacted with what is currently going on. The United States have left UNIDO quite some time ago, so we're among, I would say, the lucky ones which are not hit by what is going on in the overall UN system, because we do not have this cut-off budget as our sister agencies and the Secretariat does. So that's why you will see quite a lot of vacancy announcements which are still circulating. We're going to have something like 30 more fixed-term recruitments, which are already approved by our Director General for this position, for this year, excuse me. So I would advise you to regularly check. Usually our external vacancy announcements are published on our webpage for 3 weeks. So if you create for yourself the habit to check what is published every second week, or if you create your job alerts in the system, you'll be quite well aware of what is getting available as opportunities. And I would advise you on behalf of the whole talent planning and acquisition team to apply for the positions that you really believe that would meet your needs, your career aspirations, and for which you would consider yourself a strong candidate. I'm aware that we're running a bit behind the promised timeline. With regard to AI for screening applications before they're submitted, as we already mentioned, we're using the functionalities we have in our platform for checking the match with the minimum requirements. And then everyone who passes the minimum requirements the way they're mentioned in the vacancy announcement, they will be reviewed by the recruiters and by the hiring managers. With regard to quotas, we don't have this. And to the extent I'm aware, this is not the practice in many UN entities already. So the main criteria for selection would be to which extent someone performed well during the personal assessment process. And of course, having in mind the gender topic, which is the same for the whole UN system, we're taking into account as well the gender of candidates in case they're having equal qualifications, and sometimes nationality of the candidate can play a certain role. What else? Yeah, maybe having in mind that we're running out of time, we can close here. Please follow UNIDO in LinkedIn. There we're going to share not only the webinar we just mentioned with our colleagues from digitalization and AI, but everything else which is forthcoming. Probably in the summer we'll take 2 months break, but expect more topics for us with the beginning of autumn. Thanks a lot, and follow us for more news. Thank you for taking the time.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye and good luck.
Yeah, and good luck for the applications.